about that and what it takes, the different levels of government that help us out. And certainly Suffolk County is a huge partner to the great success that we've had here in Patchogue. And just one of the small tokens to show that success is just down at the end of West Main Street. We see the beautiful Carnegie Library sitting in its grandeur that will soon be part of the library system once again. And we have a lot to thank of our county partners and our county government for making that happen, particularly our county executive. So without further ado, please give a warm Patchogue welcome to our county executive, Steve.
It's great to be here. How are you?
Great.
Good. If you don't mind, I'm just going to step out. It's great to be in Patchogue. It's an amazing place. I love it. You know, I've been coming here for a number. I'm from Bellone. You know, I live in West Bellone, North Bellone. But I want to acknowledge our mayor, Paul Pontieri. Thank him for his great leadership. It's great to be in the library. It's a great center of the community, has been for so many years, a bedrock of the community. I'm so excited what's happening with the Carnegie Library. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I want to thank the Chamber for the talk about partnerships. You know, this is a really critical organization to the success of the village, and I want to thank Trustee Keys as well for his leadership, and thank all of you. So, some of you heard the mayor tell this story. I come to Patchogue as I was making my way over to Davis Park a number of years ago now.
My first 2004.
It was 2004. Wow, jeez.
2004, yeah.
I had black hair back then.
I had more hair.
And my wife's family was renting a place over at Davis Park, so you know I was driving through on my way over, and for several years. And I remember driving through, and each year noticing improvements that were happening in the village. Now, I was a town supervisor since 2002, and this is what I do. I do this on vacations. You know, I'm always looking around to see what places are doing. And after the third year of seeing this, you know, I was actually driving through the village. I said, you know what, I'm going to call Village Hall. I had no idea who the mayor was. I didn't know anything about the village government here. But one thing I did know is that, you know, improvements like I saw happening didn't happen by accident. That, you know, required leadership. And I thought, let me call the mayor and say, hey, whatever's happening here, great job, because there were good things happening. And that was just from a, you know, outsider driving through, looking at things. And that's the first time I spoke to the mayor. And I didn't even realize that the best was yet to come. There was far more to come, even to the point of lifting up an old library and moving it over. I love the idea that there is no idea that's off the table. If it's something that will improve the village and create a better place, then let's figure out how to get it done. That's why I love partnering with this government, with this chamber, with this community, because it's about how do we get it done, not, you know, all the reasons why we can't do it. It's about what's important, identifying what's important, and then figuring out how we make it happen. And, you know, that's how I've approached my time in government, whether it was as a town supervisor and certainly as county executive now. And I want to thank, although he's not here, Legislator Calarco for his leadership and his work here. He has been an outstanding partner, and I tell you, he is a great, great advocate for the community. I can tell you that. And he understands the needs here. So a couple issues I'll talk to you about. First, just the overall financial crisis in the county. I'll just update you on that real quick. When I came into office 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, we had a $500 million deficit. The county was in essentially financial free fall. They had used about $560 million in one-shot revenues in the 5 years prior without really making any structural changes to county government. When I came in, Rob came in at the same time. We said, can't do this anymore. This is unsustainable. I'm not going to have Suffolk County go the way of other municipalities across the state and the nation that have just sunk deeper and deeper into crisis. We're gonna make tough decisions, tough choices. We're gonna right-size the government for today's economic reality, and that's what we did. We put in a performance management team, we looked at what was necessary, like you have to do in the private sector. You have to adjust to changing circumstances, on the fly sometimes. And government's not great at doing that. So you have to, if you're gonna do that, you have to force it through. We did that. 2 years later, we've eliminated the deficit that we inherited, the $500 million deficit, and we are on our way to moving back into structural balance in this county, which is very good news for us. We are focused on two big issues now, and I'll talk about the first one, which is very much related to what's happening here, and then I'll get into the other one. The first one is reversing the brain drain. In my view, that is absolutely the top priority of this region, and it is the metric by which we should be judged in terms of our ability to grow the economy and solve the problems we have in the region. Are we able to reverse the brain drain? In effect, are we a region that is attractive to that young creative class that is necessary to build a vibrant economy in the 21st century? If we're a region that cannot retain or attract high knowledge, high skill young workers, then we've got real problems moving forward. You cannot build an innovation economy, for instance, if you can't attract or retain that class of workers and young people. And we all have a stake in this because, we all own homes, or, most of us here own homes, and we want, I assume someday, for people to buy those homes, and we'd like them to buy those homes at a reasonable price that we would like. And to make that happen, you have to have a pipeline of young people who are filling good, high-paying jobs and choosing to settle down here and buy those homes. So in order to make that happen, there are a number of things that we need to do, a number of challenges that we need to overcome to make us more competitive. And I think of it that way. If you think about it from the business perspective, you think all the time, how do we become more competitive for our customers? From our regional perspective, we have to think like that. How do we become more competitive for that young creative class, to attract them? Because more and more today in the global economy, where you are is less and less relevant. You can be, and businesses can be more and more where they want to be, rather than, you have to be in this particular place because of connections and everything else. So, to me, the big issues are that are driving young people off Long Island. It's multiple, it's complex, it's not one issue, but essentially it's around these issues. It's high costs, it's lack of high-paying jobs, it's lack of quality, affordable rental housing, it's lack of transportation options, and it's lack of places where they want to be. Patchogue, you are the model for what we need to do as a region to retain and attract young people and to be a region that can build an innovation economy that creates greater prosperity and vibrancy for all of us. So how do we make progress on those issues? Well, it's what you're doing here. It's what you're doing here in Patchogue. Let's take, for instance, a lack of quality, affordable rental housing. Just largely as a region is the first suburban region in the country. We just haven't built quality, affordable rental housing. We built tons of, and it's great, tons of single-family home housing stock. But when you're a young person coming out of college, that doesn't work for you. You need quality, affordable rental housing in your 20s, so you can save money and you can eventually get a job, build your career, and eventually buy a home here. So building that kind of housing in a downtown like Patchogue and in other downtowns is critical because it does two things. One, it provides the housing that is necessary for young people. And by the way, I'm being very broad and generalizing here, but this is not just housing for young people either. There are plenty of older people who, you know, find this kind of housing very attractive too. So I just want to say at the outset, I'm just sort of generalizing here, but, you know, again, this is like a canary in the coal mine issue. If our young people are leaving at higher rates than in any other region of the country, that's a real problem for us. And so that's why I'm generalizing that way. But so it provides that critical link, and it also puts the housing in a place that young people want to be. That's important. Not only providing what they need, but in a place where they want to be. And that is, shockingly, around other young people, where there are places to hang out, like restaurants and, you know, stores and shops and drinking establishments and places to work and, you know, recreational assets as well. You know, that's what they want. So by building housing in and around downtowns that are transit connections, I'll get to transit in a second, we're doing a great thing, meeting a couple of very important regional challenges, but we're also doing something else very important, and that is strengthening small businesses. When you are building that kind of housing in and around downtowns, you are adding to the natural customer base of businesses. And so you are helping strengthen and support small businesses, which is a very important goal and a regional goal for the county as well. Transportation, critical. We have this great transportation infrastructure in Suffolk County, across Long Island. But three lines of the Long Island Railroad, as you know, that run across Suffolk County, all the way to the end. Port Jefferson Branch, Ronkonkoma Branch, and Babylon, and so on across the island. Problem is, that infrastructure moves entirely in an east-west direction. Right? Not a problem, but it is what it is. When that infrastructure was built, it was incredibly innovative in the 1800s. In my town, I don't know about here in Patchogue, but in Babylon, the train came into Deer Park around 1842, and in Babylon it came about 1867. You know, that was incredibly visionary back then. But largely, in 150 years, we have not built upon that infrastructure in any significant way, that transportation infrastructure. So what we're talking about, what we're proposing, is to make north-south mass transit connections, to start to connect these great downtowns like Patchogue and others that are developing, to connect them to one another, as well as to colleges and universities, research centers, job centers, and parks and recreational assets. Connect them together in this transportation ecosystem that allows people to easily move around, and particularly young people, without having to get into a car. So what are the places what are we looking to do? We're looking to implement essentially rapid trolley systems in the north-south direction, the 110 corridor, Saginaw Coast Parkway. And of course, something I've talked with the mayor about, Nichols Road. Nichols Road, for instance. You have the right-of-way, you have the space. You could implement a rapid trolley system that would connect Stony Brook University, the train station stops right on campus, as you know. Head south, connect up with the Suffolk Community College campus in Selden. Go a little further south, and right to the west is Ronkonkoma Hub, where you hook up with the train station and the airport. Continue down further on Nichols Road, and you can hook up to Patchogue Village and the train station here as well in the downtown. Now you have 3 lines of the Long Island Railroad connected in a north-south direction, all of it coordinated. We're talking about taking the Yaphank train station, which is right now essentially just a shelter next to the tracks by the Board of Elections, and moving that east, a little bit east, maybe a mile east, onto Brookhaven National Laboratory property. So now you have Brookhaven National Laboratory, which is essentially a completely auto-driven place, like many places in our region, where thousands of scientists go to every year. That place is now connected in this ecosystem, connected to Stony Brook, connected to Patchogue, connected to these other downtowns, community colleges, those scientists, by mass transit, essentially. Easy, convenient transportation. So that is, you know, we call it Connect Long Island, connecting these different pieces. That's what we're working on from a regional perspective. Bending the cost curve, I think, is also very important. It's something we're trying to do at the county level, and as we move forward, I think that's important. Certainly the governor is working on issues like that. That's very important for us to continue to do. But we're never going to be a low-cost region. Let's face it. We're never going to be Texas or Alabama, where they come up here and say to our companies, come down here, you don't have to pay taxes for 40 years. That's not going to happen here. But, if we make progress on all these issues and we bend that cost curve, we can become, I believe, one of the hottest places anywhere in the country where young people not only staying here, we're attracting other young people, we're building an innovation economy, we're becoming one of the hubs for innovation in the country. We have the assets here to do that. It's just to connect, it's just a, I guess, connecting it all together and having a plan on how best to utilize it. So that's what we're working on. The other issue, briefly, and then, if anyone has any questions, we can answer. Water quality. We have a real water quality crisis in our region. People can see it in terms of the surface waters. County just released its report update of the water management plan from 1987, which was the baseline data. And what the report shows is we have had devastating impacts on our surface waters, which are pretty clear. We can see what those are. And we've seen negative trends in the quality of our drinking water, which is not an issue today or even in the near term or midterm. We'll always be able to deliver, I believe, clean drinking water. The question will be, what do we have to do? How much further from population centers do we need to go? How much deeper do we need to go? What kind of treatment might we need to do? All extraordinarily expensive things, down the line if trends continue where they're going. Surface waters, every water body in our region has been declared an impaired water body. The Forge River is considered a dead river because of anoxia. We've had harmful algal blooms, red tide, brown tide. We've had closed beaches. The clamming industry, which I grew up around in Babylon. In the 1970s, more than half the clams eaten in the United States came out of the Great South Bay. Gone. Completely decimated. 6,000 jobs were supported by that industry. Gone. Today, the equivalent dollar amount of clams would be about $65 million a year coming out. Imagine that kind of industry. And we've tried to reseed the bay, right? We've tried to put clams back in, but guess what? They have the same problem that the clams that died off before did. The pollution's still there. In fact, the pollution is getting worse. Where's the pollution coming from? It's largely nitrogen pollution that's causing the problem. And largely, the nitrogen pollution is coming from septics and cesspools. We have 360,000 homes that are unsewered in Suffolk County. To put that in context, what that means for us. In the tri-state region, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the next closest county to that is Dutchess County, with 50,000 unsewered homes. We have more unsewered homes in Suffolk County than in the entire state of New Jersey. The issue for us here is how do we move forward in a way that addresses the problem, that allows us to make progress, and importantly, do it in a way, because we can't do it in a way that adds, that disproportionately places the burden on individual homeowners. That's very important. Of course, there are costs for individual homeowners, just like there are costs for pumping out cesspools. There's costs for being in sewer districts. There are sewer districts here. The biggest one in the Southwest Sewer District. But we cannot address this problem in a way that places disproportionate burdens on homeowners. We can't do that. So we've started to look at how do we start to make this problem more manageable. And one of the big things we found, which is very important to us here in the South Shore, sure, but it's important to all of us, is there is a real problem with coastal resiliency and storms related to nitrogen pollution. And here's what it is. You know, over the last 7, 8 decades, we've lost hundreds of thousands of marshlands, wetlands, seagrass, eelgrass, our coastal vegetation. The science is clear. Coastal vegetation is one of the best natural barriers to storm surge, wave height, wave speed, flooding. And we've decimated it through the nitrogen pollution that's been going into our river corridors and our bays. So much like the clams, if you're going to restore that ecosystem, you need to remediate the pollution. So we're making the case right now to the state that, you know, essentially we are pouring untreated effluent into river corridors, depending on how close the unsewered parcels are. Untreated effluent going into river corridors, going into the bays. That nitrogen has decimated our coastal defenses, that natural shield from storms. And if we are going to protect ourselves, become more resilient when we invest these dollars, the best thing that we can do is to reduce the amount of nitrogen going into the rivers and the bays and start rebuilding the coastal vegetation so that we are better protected. And that's what we're working on doing. We have 3 areas around the Carls River, around the Connecticut River, around the Forge River, that if we target those areas, and it's based on, right now, adjacency to river corridors, density, but we can reduce about 25% of the nitrogen going into the bay from septics and cesspools. So it's the best investment we can make to start restoring the vegetation that will protect the tens of thousands of homes all along the South Shore of Long Island. And we need to do much more than that for water quality. But this would be a first phase. This is directly related to coastal resiliency, which is why we made the case to the state and our federal partners that this is an investment of resiliency dollars that is important to us, and it would kickstart us on the way to try to address this overall water quality issue, which is a huge issue, which is why, you know, people haven't really started to address it. When you have a massive problem that you know, happens over time, it's easy to ignore it because you just sort of shrug your shoulders and say, what can I do? What can we do? Well, we've started to make the problem more manageable, and that's what we're doing. We have to start this, and you know, we think this is a great first piece. So that's essentially the big issues we're working on. Finances are going well. Economic development, reversing the brain drain, water quality. And water quality, as you know, is everything to us. We have a $4.7 billion tourism industry that is underpinned by our waterways. You know, the water we drink is beneath our feet. One of our water quality experts testifying at a hearing said this is probably the only place in the world with this much density in this tight a space where you have this many homes unsewered sitting above a sole source aquifer from which we get our drinking water. It's pretty remarkable, but that is the case. And we have to start solving that problem, and that's what we're trying to do now. So that's pretty much an update on where we are. I'm happy if you want me to, or...
Please. Anybody has any questions for the county executive?
Yes.
I'm a Patchogue Chamberman. I own an acre of land in Elkhorn Village. On the waterfront and very low level. I think one of the problems for polluting is governmental. I applaud very much your idea about the trains that will work, that's just one. But when I tried to build a large home on that property a few years ago, I found that the Department of Health of the county had regulations which I thought were not as good as they should be in having the sewers, the septic systems higher than they're regulated now. So the Village of Bellport's code said, well, the Department of Health says that you can put it down this low. Where I wanted to raise the septic system up, which would be better for the water. You can put it down this low, so we don't want you to raise your house higher, because you can put it down this low. They wanted me to go to the minimum standard of the Department of Health, as opposed to the maximum standard, which was to make the house higher, just a two-story house. Make it higher so that, one, it would be more protected from storms, and number two, so the pollution from the septic system, its waterfront property, wouldn't flow out to the bays.
I just had our whole team taking a tour of the East Coast, of coastal communities from Rhode Island down to Maryland, talking with other agencies about what they've been doing. We are so far behind any other region that is a coastal region in addressing water quality. It is remarkable. And I always commented on this because in Babylon, we have much of the town sewered, but about a third of the town's unsewered north of the Southern State Parkway. And so we always had that, difference between communities. And I always found it remarkable that for the overwhelming number of people, they don't have any idea about their sewer, their septic system, or their cesspool. No idea. When you go to buy a home, you know everything about the house. You know how old the roof is. You know how old the boiler is. You make a point of finding out those things because they're important in your calculation. People have no idea about the septic system or the cesspool, and these are mechanical systems that have a lifespan, that need O&M. And that are causing significant, particularly given where you are or what the water number of different factors, causing significant water quality issues. So we are very far behind. I have determined that by the end of the year, we're going to adopt approve some advanced on-site septic systems so that people can utilize more advanced technology. We're working on that right now. And I think ultimately we need to develop programs, because these systems are more expensive, that would assist homeowners in implementing those with the costs. The benefits to installing advanced on-site systems, installing sewer infrastructure, the benefits, there is a benefit to a homeowner, there's a benefit to the property value, but largely the benefits are regional. And therefore, we need to identify regional funding sources that would take much of the burden off of individual homeowners.
Any other questions for the county executive?
When you're talking about the transportation connecting to north-south, what is it? Is it, when you said trolley, is it a bus trolley, or is it tracks? What kind of trolley?
Not tracks, no, it wouldn't be tracks, but more bus trolley, but essentially a trolley, yeah. But dedicated lanes. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a question. We appreciate the work you do to improve the quality of the Suffolk County. I see a trend that population in Suffolk County is diminishing.
Mm-hmm.
One reason is the higher real estate property taxes. So I'm in the mortgage business.
Mm-hmm.
When we want to qualify someone to get a mortgage, there's a new thing they introduced, a qualified mortgage. The debt to income ratio has to be 43% or lower. In order to get that ratio, so we have to have lower real estate taxes. Can you do some initiative to bring down the real estate property taxes in Suffolk County?
Mm-hmm.
That's my request to you.
So, I certainly don't have a magic wand that I can wave regarding property taxes, but I do agree, and what I mentioned before is, as a region, we do need to bend the cost curve, and that takes a lot. And so at the county level of government, we're trying to do everything we can to streamline government. We came in, inherited a $500 million deficit, but I said at the outset, we're not going to solve the deficit problem. And a lot of people wanted to, look to do it this way, just by adding significant new burdens on homeowners or taxpayers. We can't do it. We'd actually be harming our efforts to reverse the brain drain by just doing that. So I've really worked to consolidate and streamline things. And quite honestly, we've been opposed much of the way on those efforts because, people don't want to change. Change is difficult. But I'm going to keep doing that because I think it's the right thing to do. We're not going to become a low-cost region, but we need to be working together more and continually looking to streamline costs. We have to.
When do you project having this transportation connection? Doesn't sound like it's a major problem.
We just do it.
Yes.
I get what you're saying. Somebody, I'm a planner by nature,
Are you
we need
saying
to.
3 years or 5 years?
No, I think you're right to a certain extent that, look, we own the road, the other stuff's there, you have the right of way to do it. So yes, I think that's the case, but I do want to do a major transportation analysis, at the very least, because all this has to be interconnected, right? The railroad has to adjust what it does to what we're going to be doing, and everything in this sort of, I think it's like an ecosystem, has to be connected so that when you step off that train, there's something there to meet you if you want to go to the Ronkonkoma hub. If you want to go to the trade show, you need to go to the airport. You need to know you step off that train, that's there, and boom. Or if you want to get to Patchogue Village and you go to Stony, or you want to get to Stony Brook and you live in Patchogue Village, you need to know that you can hop when that's, trolley is there and you can hop on it and you're there in, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. So I want to do that analysis and get that done, but I agree with the sentiment. Yes.
Hi, I'm Marion Russo.
Sure.
I'm actually, when you were talking about the brain drain, I know I sit on the age-friendly communities advisory committee. So and you is Suffolk County designated, or we're working towards becoming an age-friendly
Exactly,
community?
yep.
Can you talk a little bit about how that kind of ties together?
Age-friendly community, it's very simple. Again, I was talking about, I was really emphasizing young people, but Patchogue is an age-friendly community. You're trying to implement policies that allow people to age in place and to be able to do the things they need to do and stay in their homes. Patchogue Village is an age-friendly community. It's, in fact, when we were doing that, right, we did it here to announce that initiative. So I think, an age-friendly, the things we're talking about for young people also work, the things you've done here in Patchogue Village work for an age-friendly community because, older people who may not want to maintain a house anymore have options now in a vibrant downtown, particularly that is transportation connected, to be able to have an apartment, downsize, have an apartment which they can get out, they can go to restaurants, they can go to shops, they can get the things they need on a day-to-day basis without having to get into a car. And if they want to connect to other places, now you have the transportation options that are really convenient and much easier to connect. So that's the same stuff that's important for attracting young people. I think the mirror is the mirror image of an age-friendly place. And again, I think Patchogue is a model for that. Yes.
One of the issues that we have here is overlapping jurisdictions.
Yes, we have that issue everywhere. Yeah.
I lived in many parts of this country and the world, and I've never seen a place that has so many overlying jurisdictions as we have here.
You recognize that because you've lived in so many other places around the world. We have more, I say this often, we have more levels and layers of local government than any other place in the country except California.
Even Los Angeles is
Sorry.
better than we are.
Right, it's argument, you know, which is, but look, that's the reality of the situation. I think what we need to be doing is more and more collaborating across governments, you know, finding ways to be more efficient. I think that is very important. There are ways that we can streamline economic development processes, you know. We all do our own different thing. Yeah, now look, planning and zoning is done at the local level. I was a town supervisor, so I know that well. Legislator Calarco. I was thanking you earlier for the great work. I said when Rob and I came in, we had a $500 million deficit, and thanks to Rob and the great work he's been doing and the partnership, I said we eliminated that deficit now. We've made some difficult choices, but Suffolk County's moving and getting on a solid financial foundation because of that. And we've been talking about some of the economic development and stuff. I will tell you from the work you've been doing here, you know, I've only just gotten to know Rob because, you know, I was in Babylon, he's out here, he just got elected at the same time I got elected. But he gets these issues, downtown revitalization, the importance of transportation, the connections, and placemaking, which you have been expert at here in Patchogue. So yes, I think, you know, we have all these different layers. We need to be able to work together. Economic development is a great example. You know, planning and zoning is done at the local level. I understand that as a former town supervisor. But we could coordinate across towns, across villages, across levels of government, between county and town and villages especially, without impacting the policy-making function of a town or village that is around zoning and planning, without in any way impacting that policy making, that critical policy. What we do at the county is largely administrative, except when it comes to transportation. Transportation, the county really has a leading role. Land use planning, done at the local level. Our problem, and which what we're trying to do in working together here, is we need to combine land use planning and transportation planning. You know, those things need to be linked, and that's what we're working on. But if we could just streamline the way we do the process, you know, our building departments, take out any inefficiency out of that, where you have differences, all these differences in towns and villages. So literally just remove the process inefficiencies, not touching the policy making, just the process. We could create so much economic growth just from that, by speeding the process and doing that. That takes a lot of effort. It takes doing to do that, but it's the type of thing we need to do given our, you know, very decentralized system of governance here.
You know, Steve, the other thing too is, that's the one level. The other is just something that Rob and we put together with the highway departments. The savings to the village, with us picking up the costs of plowing the courthouse and Suffolk PD, Waverly Avenue. We're gonna be doing maintenance on the spur back in there. It saves the village, just, we swapped it for salt. It probably saved us $100,000.
Right.
But also,
right, and that's what we got to think about. It is not, you know, that's a great thing, and we're working on those kind of partnerships that we've done here that Rob has helped to lead with the town of Brooklyn, you know, and we need to do that. And it's not as like saving to the village, it's savings to residents here, you know. That it's saving to our mutual constituents. It's reducing costs in the region. It's really overall bending the cost curve. That's what we need to do. We need to keep doing as many examples of that as possible. We need to do more of it, and it's something that we're committed to. But it's a great example.
Does anybody else?
Yes.
You were saying with the septic systems that by adding the sewers, that it would cut the nitrogen levels by 25%. What's the other 75% comprised of?
The three, you know, areas that we're talking about for coastal resiliency, around the Calls River, around the Kennequart River, around the Ford River, our health department experts, you know, in collaboration with scientists and Stony Brook University, you know, identified, because we're going to start, how do we start this process? And if we're directly pursuing sandy it is the areas that are directly impacting coastal resiliency, meaning reducing the nitrogen pollution that's going right into the bay that is decimating our coastal vegetation. Those three projects, if implemented, would reduce by 25% the amount of nitrogen that is currently coming from septics and cesspools into the Great South Bay. So it's the best bang for our buck, the most amount of nitrogen reduction for the investment made in order to restore and improve coastal resiliency. But we have much more to do beyond that. Then, if we do that, if we can reduce by 25% what's coming into the bay from septics and cesspools, what we're doing is allowing ourselves to restore that coastal vegetation to protect all the homes along the south shore of Long Island. But we need to go beyond that as well. There's a lot more that we need to do after that. But this would be a huge step forward for our region.
But is there anything else that we can do to cut down on that other 75%? Even as a community.
We have 360,000. We have 360,000 homes. We have to try to make this more manageable. Worked over the last 6 months to identify which are the most important of those 360,000 in terms of their nitrogen contributions. That takes us to about 200,000 homes, around 209. That's going to be further analyzed to try to pinpoint that number, but we think it's around 200,000. Of those 200,000, for coastal resiliency purposes, we identified 3 target areas that would reduce most. But we need to get out all those 200,000. Very important. We think about 30% of those will be sewer. The rest will be some type of clustered system or advanced on-site wastewater treatment system that gentleman was talking about.
Just to point to that, out of the program, your sewer program, the funding that we got, the end of River Avenue, that there were 50 homes that between county executive and our legislature, we're going to be sewering, but they're providing the funds for those 50 homes to be hooked up. So, and these are 50 homes that people have told us, told Joe Keys when he had knocked on doors, that they don't let the kids play outside when it rains because the sewage just seeps up into the lawns. So by this time next year, they will be sewered, and that it's only 50 homes out of your 200,000, but you got to start someplace.
Yeah, no, that's exactly
And
right,
that,
Mayor.
but that doesn't happen without the funding that you provided us. We could have put the lines down, but then the people would have to
Right.
figure out how to do the hookups. So this is, your money is going directly to the homeowner.
And that's not just a problem for the homeowner, that's a problem, if that's happening on that parcel, that is contributing huge amounts of pollution that's affecting everyone's water quality.
There's a collaboration.
Exactly.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
I think what he was asking was the other 75%, is that like nitrogen on people putting in lawns?
About 70% of the nitrogen is coming from septics and cesspools. So 70% of the overall is coming from septics. The rest is coming from a combination of sources. Fertilizer, would be a prominent one, but a number of different sources together.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for.
I know, I-
Any other questions?
Am I to hear the mayor correctly in that he's willing to extend the sewer system of the village into East Patchogue and places like that?
I will extend it to wherever we can get the money to send it.
I'll let the mayor talk to you about that later.
Well, just an aside, I've always believed our plant could go to $1.5 million. We're at 800,000. If the money ever came through, I think that we should look at those plants and expand them to their natural, because they've been sited, and take those lines and move them where you can move them to. But it's all dollars.
Right, it's dollars, and by doing something like that, and again, we're now in the realm of this isn't happening right now, but when you make those connections, then you're helping everyone. Even if you're already connected, you're helping everyone because you're improving the water quality for everyone for the region. That's going to create a greater economy, better recreation. You're also restoring industries, aquatic industries. You're also fortifying our coastline from storms. So, you know, we tend to think of sometimes in a parochial fashion these things, but this is one of those issues that's really a regional issue. It's not, you know, it gets down to community by community, homeowner by homeowner, but this is one where everybody's actions are affecting us as a region. So your neighbor is affecting you, you're affecting your neighbor, and we all have a you know, a more vibrant place when we do this together regionally.
And Ralph, remember, the mayor's already extended the line down to Phyllis Avenue on East Main Street. So while they're there, they're ready to go, people can connect all along that route. As we start to look at what kind of development, what kind of growth can happen along East Main Street, which is really crying out for it, I think you'll start seeing people take advantage of that asset. That helps make that corridor much more attractive to people. So as the village continues to fill up, it has less spaces to go into, businesses are going to look to go down the road.
And I can tell you that the legislature is focused on that issue. I can personally tell you. All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's great to see that the Suffolk County is in excellent hands with our county executive. Thank you very much for being here. And I do want to, offer, we do have our county legislator, Rob Calarco here. I don't know if you wanted to say a few words or had any message you'd like to share with the chamber while you're here.
Well, since I'm here, just again to thank you all for what you do and being a part of the chamber. And we've got a lot of great things going on in the village, and I'm sure the county executive probably alluded to, what we've done with the Carnegie Library and some of the other things. But you may have noticed recently we were putting some pipes into the traffic circle on over by Waverly Avenue. What we're actually doing is we're providing a means for water access. We're working with the bid to be able to do a nice planting there, so it will actually beautify a little bit of the entranceway into the village as people coming to the downtown area. That's something we're working on. So, we're really just kind of plugging along, and I'm sure the county executive filled you in where the county is on a lot of the stuff we're working on. And I look forward to working with the chamber as a member to keep hearing from you on what we need to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I noticed as the meeting was going on, we did have a couple of members walk in. We like to make sure all members did get introduced themselves. So